Welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host today, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today where we will be breaking down all the action at the RBC Canadian Open. So we saw a pretty special event as the RBC Canadian Open has really proved to be one of the most special events on tour. We're going to be breaking down the winner, Robert MacIntyre, talking about the leaderboard in our second segment. In our third segment, we'll be talking about Justin Thomas and his season in review or up to date. As we did this with Jordan Spieth a month ago, I think I'm going to do this with the golfers that are the biggest names in golf, talk about where their seasons are at, talk about the lows or the highs that they've been facing, and then our fourth segment will be my updated top 10 golfers in the world. It's been about a month since I've done it last. We're going to do it again, as I probably will make that about a monthly tradition here on the GSMC Golf Podcast. And then our fifth and final segment will be talking about the importance of the Memorial Tournament, as I am a kid from Columbus, Ohio, so I think that I am more than capable of speaking on the importance of a golf tournament that really is so important in my hometown. But as we get into this, before we start with all of that, if you would like to support the channel, support the GSMC Sports Network at all, use the gsmcpodcast.net link for tips and donations. It really does help all of us out. You guys could also ask me a question if you would like. It'll show up on the screen and I'll read it out loud live on air for you guys. But without further ado, we're going to get right into our first segment talking about Robert MacIntyre. And as we always do, we show the scorecards from the week. This is his first round. Absolutely brilliant first round here. He shoots a 64. He finishes, I think he was tied fifth, or he was fifth, solo fifth, as there were four guys that shot 63 and 62. He was the only one that was really able to keep this momentum and keep this kind of golf up for the entire time of this tournament. Robert MacIntyre really played amazing this tournament with an opening round 64. He didn't shoot in the 70s once this tournament, always under par. A bogey-free card here. This is a pretty weird card, as you're going to see Robert MacIntyre having pretty weird cards. There were a lot of harder holes on the back nine, as we talked about on Thursday, but it didn't matter for Robert. He played so well on the back nine this entire weekend, and started here in technically his front nine, but it is the back nine. It's 10 through 18 of this golf course. So his second day on Friday, he has another bogey-free card. It's 4 under here, a 66, very impressive round as well. 2 birdies on each side of the card, bogey-free card. You always love to see that when you're a player on tour. And then he gets his first bogey right out the gate here on Saturday on moving day. Very weird card from him on moving day. He ends up 1 over on the front nine. We talk about how much more difficult the front nine is than the back nine of this tournament. The back nine, he goes 5 under. He goes birdie, bogey, birdie, eagle on 17, and then pars 18. He played amazing on the back nine this weekend, and Saturday is a great example of that. He finishes this day in the lead, and then in round 4, bogey's the opening hole again. He hated hole 1 on this tournament, but unable to separate himself from the pack. He definitely could have, but played it safe down the stretch. 17 and 18. 17 and 18, he had great looks at par for both of those. He had to stick it close to the green on both of those approach shots, and he did so very well. So Robert MacIntyre is your RBC Canadian Open champion. He played amazing all weekend, and you saw it on those cards. He is proven to be one of the best golfers, and once again, this is the whole sheet from this tournament. You see this back nine and how much more difficult it's playing than the front nine. It's playing about a shot over the front nine in difficulty. So impressive what he was able to do on that back nine the entire weekend, especially on Saturday, getting that 5 under on it after a pretty disappointing front nine for him. But this is Robert MacIntyre's first win on tour. Second week in a row that we've gotten a first winner, as last week it was Davis Riley getting his first week on tour at the Charles Schwab Challenge, and now it is Robert MacIntyre getting his first win on tour. We talked about how the short fields would change kind of how the tournament plays out, and this is an example of it doing so. I mean, if he had to contend with Scottie Scheffler, Victor Hovland, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, all these guys, big names, maybe it looks a little bit different for him, but he doesn't have to. So Robert MacIntyre, 16 under, is the winner here. He played very well. The entire week played very well. 64 opening round, 66, 66, 68, and he is your winner. Very impressive from him. He had his dad on his bag, and it was a great moment. Jim Nantz was, of course, the one calling on Sunday, and when Robert MacIntyre made his putt to win, Jim Nantz said, so he wrote a book about his dad when his dad passed away about 16 years ago, and he said this on the post-broadcast. Now the name of the book is escaping me, but he used that line for... Now I gotta look it up because it was a great moment. He used that line for when Robert MacIntyre won. It's always by my side. That's the name of the book, and that was the line that he used when they won that one. Jim Nantz is a legend, the best broadcaster, of course, in golf, but I say in all sports. I love Jim Nantz. Anytime he's calling a game, whether it's March Madness basketball or it's the Masters tournament, it's always such a special event, and he makes it even more special. So, of course, big fan of Jim Nantz. Everybody in the world of sports is. So it was great to see him make that call because I think that was so great. He wrote a book about his dad when his dad passed away. He used that line, the name of the book, as the line to call the winner. When Robert MacIntyre had his dad on the bag caddying for him for this weekend. And Robert MacIntyre, giving a little bit of backstory to him, grew up in Scotland. His dad is a greenskeeper at the local course there, so grew up playing golf around that course. Very, very good golfer, of course, PGA Pro, but he was never like... He was always like in that Joel Damon kind of tier of golf, like where he needed to work hard to get to be this good. Where there is just natural athletes in golf that just it comes a little bit easier to them. For Robert MacIntyre, it's not the same with him. So very great to see him get this win. It meant a lot for Robert MacIntyre. It's been a pretty difficult season on tour for him. Before this win, he was cut at the Charles Schwab. He got a tied 8th at the PGA Championship. That was very impressive. And he was in the mix going into that Sunday, but shot at a 70 on the Sunday. Myrtle Beach Classic tied for 13th. The CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, he was cut. The Zurich Classic, he was tied for 8th. He was cut at the Houston Open. He was tied 33rd at the Valspar Championship. Cut at the Players, tied for 32 at the Puerto Rico Open, tied for 60 at the Cognizant Classic. There it is. Tied for 60 there. Tied for 6th at the Mexico Open. Cut at the Waste Management. Cut at the Farmers Insurance. Cut at the Amex. And tied for 52 at the Sunny Open in Hawaii. So he plays in a lot of tournaments, but hasn't had too amazing of a year to date. So getting a win could create a lot of momentum for this 27-year-old Scottish golfer, Bobby MacIntyre, as he's known on tour. Playing very good. I showed you the scorecard. Played near flawless on the first 2 days. So impressive from Robert MacIntyre. This weekend, it was really his approach shots that really stood out for me. He was fantastic on approach the entire weekend. We talked about him on 17 and 18, but even before that, he had a few holes that he was able to stick it right near the pin, be able to put himself, of course, getting that eagle on 17 on Saturday. That was a fantastic approach shot, and then a great putt for him as well. So Robert MacIntyre, very impressive at the Hamilton Country Club. There it is. I finally got it out. Off the tee, this season he's been 54th. All of his numbers have been pretty mediocre when you look at it, but I just gave you his results on the year, and it makes sense. Having a pretty mediocre year on tour besides this win here. 54th and off the tee, strokes gained total 41st, strokes gained putting 45th, strokes gained around the green 69th, strokes gained on approach of the green 97th. That's the only one where he's in the red for, and 97th minus .022 strokes gained. So he's been fantastic in a lot of areas of his game this year, and he was able to get the approach shots to work for him going into this tournament, and that's why he got the win. That's what I say is the area that really stood out for him. Very impressive what Robert MacIntyre was able to do. It's always hard to win your first win on tour. Davis Riley could attest to that probably from winning last week for the first time. It's not an easy feat, and he was able to do it in a pretty impressive fashion. It was closer than it needed to be, honestly. He let second place kind of hang around. We're going to be talking about more on the leaderboard in our next segment. So we'll be talking about second place and onward and how they shaped out. But for Robert MacIntyre, he wasn't able to, pull himself away as we see this round 4 scorecard. When you look at it, I think he was 3 strokes ahead going into the turn. I want to say he was pretty far ahead going into the turn, and then 2 bogeys on 12 and 13, and it got a little bit scary. But gets the stroke back on 15. Without that birdie on 15, he's into a playoff, and he was able to close it out on 17 and 18, getting pars on both of those holes. Pretty difficult shots into the green to get pars as well. So impressive stuff from Robert MacIntyre, what he was able to do in this tournament. He's going to be very happy with how he played. But that'll wrap it up for our first segment, talking about Robert MacIntyre's weekend review. When I come back, we'll be talking about the rest of the leaderboard at Hamilton Golf Club and Country Club, and talking more on the RBC Canadian Open besides just Robert MacIntyre.